we welcome back on stage Patrick Fiegel from our gold sponsor Tricentis to tell us about testing efficiency in the cloud. Welcome back, Patrick.
Thank you very much. So we are on the journey, we're rising, we're well accompanied by experts who help us to get there. And we first, before we start the itinerary, need to ask which station is it exactly that we're going towards. The rise to the cloud is not necessarily a jump straight away, but it can be an incremental increase to the final goal. The final goal might not be in the upper right-hand corner. Not everybody wants to go there, not everybody can go there, but certainly there is a destination, right? Now, regardless of the destination, this is the road. Yeah, this is what is in, for you to do a lot of stuff. Well organized, well thought through, and ready to be executed, but nonetheless a lot of stuff to do. So, as you have to go through this, of course, in the end, it matters that you arrive where you wanted to go in the first place. How do you make sure that is the case? And this is where quality assurance enters the stage. Quality assurance is not just testing. Yeah? Testing is the technical piece that we talk about and that we're known for, but ultimately it is quality assurance that we need to think about. It is a question that starts in the upper left-hand corner, where the business asks, what is my risk exposure? Actually, more importantly, what is my risk appetite? Am I willing to enter a risk? And if I don't have the appetite to enter the risk and I have a risk exposure, what do I do about it? I mitigate the risk, right? Therefore, I build an IT that is resilient. Therefore, I task my projects to think about warranting that I arrive where I want to go. And that is where testing comes into the stage, in the lower right end of the story. It's not quite the end, right? Because even if we arrive at the end, we want to go further. There is ongoing innovation in production past the go live of the big transformation. So we need ongoing business and IT quality assurance, right? So this is basically the domain that we need to apply to RISE in order to arrive where we want to go. And that means that all of a sudden this dark ocean of despair has a blue light to it, right? So there is quality assurance that enters the task specifically within the Activate framework, telling you what to do and how to do this. We can zoom into those and we see that they are actually technical and methodological, or let's say intellectual property type of things that we bring to the table. Tricentis started with a consulting organization, so we came from a problem-solving perspective into this realm, understanding what does it mean to put warrants around quality assurance. IP and technology, that is what we bring to the table, so that your RISE journey becomes quality insured. In preparation for the presentation, I realized we have assured, so that is the statement we want to help you. We have ensured, we put means in, and ultimately you want to be insured, so that it really is locked in. And that's what we promise here. So in order to deliver on that big promise, we have 3 pillars. We work with solid foundations, right? Number 1, we have a testing platform that is very broad and very deep in technical scope and technical depth, especially focused on the SAP landscapes, but not only. We're SAP-centric, I would say, and SAP is certainly the biggest part of our business by far, but we think landscape-wide. Secondly, we have embraced SAP in, I would say, 3 ways. So we're integrated into the tool stack technically, the tools we spoke about so much these days. We have entered RISE with SAP methodology via Activate, so we have put our IP into the methodology. We're going to talk about this. And lastly, we also are starting to collaborate on content. So 3 levels of connection. And then lastly, we want to talk about Wieland and his washing machine. It's an acceleration story at the end. So we need to boost the speed. So we'll talk about the power cleaning powder that we have for Wieland. All right, so let's start with the platform. I know that many of you are confused by the names of our products, and frankly, it's no surprise to me. I think we have followed the best practice of another company to be very creative with the naming. So what I like to do as an architect is to kind of step back and say, okay, what are the capabilities that we bring to the table? So what we did here for you is to kind of bring it back to the main ideas. You plan for testing. Where do you need to test? What are the triggers of testing? Either prompted by changes in the technical stack or by changes of the processes or other types of changes, data-related changes, for instance. Secondly, you want to define what is the scope of testing in the sense of what are the tests that you will be building. Then you have an environment to think about in which types of tools and what types of applications am I testing through which interfaces, and so forth and so forth. I'm not going to read the entire thing. You have arrived on the right-hand side, I'm sure, by now. But this all maps then to the different products, and we have this pair, ECT, STA. Those are the on-prem and private cloud versions, and public cloud versions of Tosca, the product that we're famous for, supported by Edit, which is the data integrity component that kind of plugs into it. So we look at not only the processes, but also the data that results out of processes. It's fun to see that there's a green light at the end of the transaction, but it's even more fun that the data is right at the end, right? So we need to make sure both. And then we also have EPT, which looks into the performance of the landscapes. You need to be able to warrant whether we can scale or not. It's not only functional testing, but also non-functional testing. And of course, we want to have the right trigger, and this is where change impact analysis, CIA, comes in, now accompanied by a new brother. Yeah? So we have this broad platform, and as we look at the Tosca capability, we are moving into the cloud more intensely than before. We do have a public cloud version running in an unlimited usage option since the beginning of the year. This allows you to test systems under test in all three levels of the landscape, and we are also going to be allowing a deployment of the tool without necessity of installing agents in your landscape. So this is in the works still for this year to arrive. And then we are going to be providing a private cloud option. Now that was a fancy animation. It took me a while to do this. And this means that we also will address the needs of customers who have traditionally been on the on-prem side, to allow for usage in a managed environment with all the necessity in terms of security and privacy. All right, second comment to make in the scheme of capabilities that we have with our tools. We're expanding the family. We have made an acquisition recently, you might have heard of it, Sealights, a company that doesn't come from the SAP background, but comes really from web application and that manages code changes on all the languages and programming models that you see listed here, has been brought into the company. We're bringing both together. This also follows the path of SAP, where now we are trying to support the clean core, so a lot of development is going to be happening in the non-ABAP world, and so TMS has a certain view into this, but we need to go broader and be able to support this, and this is where the family is going to be expanded. There is much more in terms of updates, so therefore we have a dedicated session with two gentlemen that are in the room here and that are happy to also answer questions in that slot. So with that, let's go to the second pillar and talk about our integration into the SAP end-to-end tool stack. That's the fun part. So remember that I said that quality assurance is a discipline that kind of spans the breadth of business and IT from the strategic to the operational side. If we look at the tool stack that is there today, where we plug into, it is shown here and it addresses precisely this, making sure that the solution is in line with the expectation, that you get what you asked for, right? In that context, we plug into Cloud ALM, that is our main anchor into the end-to-end tool stack, but we also work together with the other tools, leveraging information from the other tools. I'll speak later about the data management combination. The lines that you see here, the dotted lines, show the technical integrations available in that stack. With this, we want to expand into a bigger integration, adding two components. One is risk management, really starting in the left upper corner, back to what I said at the beginning, and connecting testing results to enterprise capabilities that we look at from a risk management perspective. What is the risk that I enter as I go into a digitalization of my lead to cash process, for instance, in the insurance world for my companies in Canada, right? Well, there will be statistical information available from the rest of the companies that have done this that can be exposed at enterprise architecture time. So we're collaborating with Cloud ALM and LeanIX on use cases in that realm. By the way, if there's interest in participating in that co-innovation, enterprise architecture and risk management, please meet me after the presentation. Also, we're kind of expanding, especially with making things easier. One notable expansion is the topic of test data management, which is very important to connect then also to partner products and making the data adjudication to the test cases more seamless. In addition to working with the SAP Transformation Management tool stack and being part of the standard, we also enter bilateral relationships, of course, and we build partner bundles. Yeah? Partner bundles show how you can use Tricentis in conjunction with another typical product in an SAP landscape in an optimized way. So the focus here is again on giving guidance to the people who have bought products from both companies onto how to better use them in conjunction. Let's look at an example here, and this would be in the realm of data management. Now all of a sudden the black area has two lights, a green light and the blue light, working together in a way where we now look at the things that they do and that we do that have a relationship. So let's look at this here, how this looks, especially in the area of realize. That's kind of the center of this whole picture. We take the capabilities here from our three tools, change impact analysis, enterprise continuous testing, and /STA, and performance testing, and we look at the capabilities of the data management platform, in this case from S&P, and we then analyze where are there potentials to doing things in a faster way by combining the usage of their tools with our tools. Yeah? So for instance, producing data scope triggered test proposals that then are fed into our change impact analysis. For instance, using the same type of approach to feeding into regression testing based on data scope changes diagnosed with copybacks. But the most interesting use case for me is the possibility of doing early test data gathering. What is that? Who builds test cases? Typically business users, right? Or people who work for business users. But it's business users who know what to test because they know what is critical to the business. When do they build the test? Well, typically 5 minutes before 12, when the system is done, when you're ready now to go into the testing phase, right? But you probably already know way ahead of time what you will be looking for in terms of data. Yeah? For instance, I want to test my 5 biggest customers in Germany who have no tax liability. Some strange combination for whatever reason, right? Now, such queries can already be started once the data is there at the end of data migration. Now, if we can do it at that time, those people can start part of their work there, and then they don't need to jam everything in 5 minutes before 12. Yeah, making sense? I see one person nodding, so that's good. There will be a test at the end, by the way. Yeah, so, all right, and there are many, many more stories that we can tell around integration with the gentleman who's nodding, RefTech. So Charm, we are obviously also tied into that. Then the partner who is going to be on stage here later on, Conigma Connect, you saw them at the beginning when we started the first presentation, is integration as a product, which ties in very nicely with us, of course. And then what you see there, this Solex extended tool stack, there are other products that are sold to SAP customers and used conjunctively with ours, for instance, OpenText for data migration and others, where we are increasingly working on similar things, as I showed with the S&P case, optimized use cases in conjunction. Meet us at the booth for those discussions. We have an expert who is looking at the details here, nodding in front of me. All right, last column, the super powder for the wheel and washing machine, right? Now, why do we need to think so much about acceleration? Because we are one of the main culprits, right? Look at the stack of activities that you do. Now, this is a migration or an upgrade. This is not your DevOps style incremental deployment, of course. You set up the tooling landscape, you set up the target landscape, you do the migration of data, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, you have to do the testing, right? Now, if we want to bring this down, what can we do? Yeah? Number one, what I already spoke about, tool stack integration, so making sure there is no media break between the systems that work in sequence. Secondly, as I also showed already, orchestrating activities across tools, so making sure that there is maximum reuse of activities across the different tools. And then thirdly, yeah, and that's I think now the super powder, is the ready-to-use content. Yeah? All right, let's double click on the second and third a little bit, right? So the second one goes back into giving you precise indications how to use our tool as part of a RISE migration, or whatever the RISE journey is, let's say, at the right time. So this is where we have entered the definition of quality gates, of questionnaires, of tasks inside of RISE with SAP methodology. RISE with SAP methodology is sort of a wrapper around Activate optimized for RISE, where there is not only improvements, let's say, on the methodological side, but where SAP is also bringing the tasks back into the tool so that ultimately you get walked through by Cloud ALM. Yeah? And we love that because we therefore can also introduce that guidance with regards to quality assurance precisely in the tool. It no longer is in a book or in a PowerPoint presentation, but it's handed to you as a task, right? And it is done, of course, based on the tool stack that goes with RISE with SAP methodology, and you will notice on the lower side, the only non-SAP product there is Tricentis. Yeah? So we're at the core of this tool stack. All right, how does this methodological inclusion happen? First, we define where to enter the roadmap. So you see the Roadmap Explorer here showing incisions that we have created. But then, as I said, it goes into the template projects that you can now download into Cloud ALM, or receive it within Cloud ALM, and have the tasks that come from us, basically, in our experience in quality assurance. All right, the super powder, content, right? Ready-to-use content. Why do we need it? We didn't test that before, Wieland. So, nobody's laughing here, so it's okay. So the ready-to-use content is the main ingredient, we think, in bringing down the time of testing. If you look at why testing takes so much effort, it is because there's a lot of time spent in building the tests, obviously, right? Because we need to translate the intent into go to this screen, do this click here, put this field in. Yeah, it's a lot of work, right? So in order to remediate that, we think that we need to do two things, right? Number one, put out reusable Lego testing blocks, so to speak, that give you basically things that you can plug into your test cases, right? Starting with the most granular elements, which would be screen definitions that are closely tied to the screens SAP produces. So here we are in a collaboration, trying to make sure that you have updated representations of screens that you can directly consume inside of Tosca and down the road in EPT as well. Secondly, taking process flows, so the small pieces, building blocks, process flows to have end-to-end process descriptions that you can drag these elements into. After testing, we're thinking further down the road about also helping you with accelerated interpretation of test results with interpretation rules. But for now, the focus is on this front part. And then, in addition to giving you these ready-to-use pieces, assist you, as it would be normal to do in 2024 with co-pilot assistance. So giving you basically tool assistance to more quickly assemble these building blocks into fully fledged test cases, including, of course, data, right? It's not only about the flow, knowing which field to click, but also the data that goes in there. And this is where the test data management and this accelerated composition of test cases comes together. So with that, what we can say is that we believe we have a good place at the table as the quality shield for SAP transformation management end-to-end from the point of enterprise architecture all the way through ongoing operations. And with that, now we're in for some rewards for those who paid attention, and I ask Malte Klassen to join me on the stage and take it from here. Thank you.